Ciao! My name is Mai, and today I'm going to be going over with you my nursing interview questions that I did this past year for my nursing residency program that I'm going to be starting soon, and it's in the med-surg unit. So I did a couple of nursing interviews for the med-surg, ER, and surgical units. So these questions, I'll just be going over the questions. Mainly, I'll go a little bit on how I answered them, but not too much, mainly because it would be a pretty long video, because there's like about 20 questions. And so if you want to grab some popcorn, chill, piece of paper, write it down, or whatever you want to do. But yeah, about 20 questions, and mainly because, or partially because, I didn't do too hot on answering my ER interview questions. So I would just be going over what questions I got, because on how I answered it, maybe I'll go into how I answered it too, so then you know how not to answer. But I'll just go over the gist of how I answered the questions, okay? I'll give you just the cherry on top, the goody stuff. So yeah, let's get just straight into that. All right, so first question, basic. This was from what I did, what I researched before I did my nursing interviews too, and got asked really on all of the nursing interviews was, tell me a little bit about yourself and your healthcare or work experience. So yeah, if they ask you, what's your past work experience, mainly they're looking for anything healthcare related. So tell me a bit about yourself. 5-year goal was asked this a lot as well, because mainly another thing was I graduated from an ADN program. So for me, they asked me this a lot because working in hospitals, they want you to get a BSN within couple of years from starting. So that's why they asked me that, I think, but they could also ask you that if you have a bachelor's. Anyways, next is why should we hire you? And side note is, a lot of these questions, there can be variations of the questions, but the main idea is the same. So why should we hire you? They could also ask you how could you make this unit better? So what I believe they're looking for is strengths and weaknesses, and they might even straight out ask you what can you bring to the unit? What are your strengths? Tell me 2 or 3 of your strengths, something like that. And why this hospital? I was asked this also, and so this is important because you should research how what your hospital's values and core values and mission statements. That's what I was trying to say, mission statements. And that's how they want you to answer this one, I believe. So I researched their mission statement, getting down their core values and what I felt aligned with me. And when they would ask me this, I'm like, yes, your guys's core values of being compassionate and whatever, aligned with how I feel when I want to work in your hospital and yada yada yada, that type of stuff. And then what makes you passionate about the unit, or what makes it seem like it's a good fit for you? What makes you passionate about the unit? Yeah, so this is more unit based. So they might ask you that for, ER. They did ask me this for the ER, so you better have a good reason why you're passionate about this unit, because I sucked at answering this one. Because honestly, I didn't know why I want to, the idea of ER sounded exciting to me, but I feel anxious when I get overwhelmed. So I'm like, would I really be a good fit? So then I didn't have a deep reasoning about why I wanted to work in the ER. So I try to be, as honest as I can when answering why are you passionate about the ER? And I'm just it just sounds exciting, mainly. So yeah, that's how I answered it. So it's no wonder you weren't picked. but you know, I get it. You know, what's meant to be will be, what's not will not. So another one was, okay, this is common. A conflict at work and times when point of views are different between coworkers. This question, conflicts, can be asked so many different ways. So do your research on that. Definitely do your research. Have examples. Oh yeah, okay, side note, big note. Have examples. Have stories to tell, okay? Yes, just come up with examples for each and every one of them, just so you know how to approach. Conflict, an example of conflict. They might ask you different variations of conflict, but you can give all the, you know, that example of a conflict. So mainly is how they would ask you conflict, how did you manage it? And how it worked out for you between you and that coworker. Or conflict with a patient. How did you manage it, and what happened afterwards? That's basically how it goes. So 3-step process, just give an example, how'd you handle it, and yada yada yada. Tell us a time when you almost made a mistake and caught it. That's a big one also. Especially being a new grad, you know, they know that you might have made mistakes throughout, you know, the programs and whatever. Yeah, and what were your follow-up steps and the end results? So there was that. Another one was, let's see. Tell me about a time when you went above and beyond for a patient. I was asked this so many times. Yeah, luckily, you know, I did my research, okay? So I got lots of examples of these, but I always use really the same ones for them. It's a long ass story, but it's how I went above and beyond for my patients. So mainly, yeah. And then another one is, how would you balance different patients and how would you prioritize what patients you see first? See, that's like 2 different questions, but they're all about prioritizations. So think of an example. I would really, for me, I went with, I learned how to prioritize while in nursing clinicals, seeing the nurses prioritize their patients, and I got tips and tricks from them. And then list out those tricks and tricks. What am I just saying? Tricks and tips, yeah. So yeah, prioritization is a big one. Maybe they'll ask you how you would organize your shift. That is a prioritization question too. They could ask you how can you walk through a typical shift for yourself? That's another one. They may ask you 3 things important to you in a job. This one was hard for me. I think I just BS'd this one. I said something around like, I don't know, safe staffing ratios, a good support system, resources. I don't remember what I did for my 3rd one, but yeah. Oh, here's a big one. Tell me a time when a patient was showing symptoms that made you feel like you should act quickly to intervene. And what did you do? What was the outcome? Okay, that was a big one for me. I feel like this one was an ER question because it sounds a little bit more specific. Mainly, I feel like what they're looking for is safety for the patient. Even if you don't know what's going on, look at the patient. Are they safe? Their ABCs, check their vitals, even if you don't know what's going on, you know? So the main thing is making sure your patient is safe, and then after that, procedures will follow, but is your patient safe? At least that's what I think they're asking, so I'm pretty sure that caught me off guard, so I was like, I don't know, so. They may ask you like, what do you think a med-surg shift would be like? What do you think an ER shift would be like? So think that through. That's more specific. I gotta ask that one. When you started they might ask you like, being a new grad in this working environment, how would you like form relationships with your coworkers? I don't know, man. Be friendly. Anyways, let's see. Tell us about a time when you're having difficulty communicating with a preceptor, a coworker, a peer, and you guys weren't like on the same page. How did you go on trying to handle that? Yeah, basically you weren't on the same page. How would you handle that? You guys are on your own on this one because I sucked at this one. And see, this is a long ass question. Don't be shy of telling them to repeat the question for you because, you know, your brain is I don't know the word, is somewhere else. So, you know, you got all of your examples right there, and getting a long ass question like that, it goes somewhere else. And tell them to repeat themselves. Don't be shy. And then, can you tell me about a time when you worked with a family that was difficult? Okay, this is a big one also. Basically, conflict with, a difficult patient. How would you handle it? Mainly, any conflict, difficulty. Listening, active listening is a big one. Active listening, therapeutic communications, nursing school. This is where it comes in. Therapeutic communications, active listening, trying to de-escalate the situation. Key words, y'all, key words here. De-escalate, but of course, come up with an example, and then when you list your steps, those things. And then, how did you approach it? How were they difficult? Basically. Some ways you practice self-care, especially they know how stressful nursing is. Coming out of COVID, and right now, like flu, RSV, all that stuff, understaffing, whatever. Being a new grad in general, I want to see how you can take care of yourself in dealing with stress. Accomplishments that you have received at a workplace or school. I was asked this like twice, a couple of times, and caught me kind of off guard. I'm like, what does this matter? Honestly, that's how I felt. I was like, you want to know what I accomplished? I mean, it wasn't a big deal to me because I'm like, I don't know, I don't feel like I accomplished that much, but you know, whatever. So that's why I was like, caught me off guard again. But I just said, you know, I did well. I was able to work like 2 jobs at first and then manage nursing school halfway, and then halfway through nursing school, I was like, okay, I can't do it. I need to give up 1 job. So I ended up just quitting 1 job and then having to work full-time still though. So I worked full-time and continued nursing school, and I felt that was like my biggest accomplishment, being able to balance that. So kind of work-life balance is a good example to give, because then with the stress of nursing as a job, you know, your soon-to-be nursing job, and it's good that they know you can be able to have that work-life balance or whatever. And like they could ask you like your greatest rewards. Why did it make you proud? Also another way of asking that question. So that's all really I got. Okay, so after that, this is towards the end of the video, right? Or interview, sorry. And then they're gonna ask you, do you have any questions for us? So these are a couple of questions that I really always ask is nurse to patient ratio, because you know, with how staffing is these days, it's just like, can you just tell me so I can be prepared mentally? So day shift versus night shift. What do you expect from your new grads? They're kind of basic questions. I would, you know, do a little more research if you want, but these are typically what I ask. And I always ask this, when can I expect to hear back from you regarding the interview? And if I'm did you just see that? If I'm a potential candidate for the position. I always like to ask that just so that I can get, you know, a better idea of when to expect an answer. And let me tell you, with my ER interviews, both times I've asked this, and they're like, you can expect to hear from us like within the next 2 weeks. And I didn't hear nothing. So one of them I had to reach out to because I was desperate. to know. And the next one, I was just like, you know what? F this. I'm just gonna accept somewhere else because y'all don't want me. And even till now, they have not answered me. So just like to give you an idea of how it is if they want you, they'll come for you. And if they don't want you, 2 weeks is, see, that's the thing. It's like after like 2 weeks is what they said, when they said they would get back to you. And if you don't hear anything, that's kind of like, you know, it's not too good of a sign, but you never know. Some I hear may take them like a month or so to hear back or something. I don't know. But for me, from my experience, it was no go. But again, you know, whatever's meant to be will be. And yeah, I feel like that's a good question to ask at the end because it gives you a better idea of what to expect. So that is it. Let me know if you guys have any other questions and I will try my best to answer them. So yeah, thank you for watching.